Hello, I'm sitting here with Erling Roland, and he is a professor of educational psychology. And today we're going to talk about bullying. So, first of all, Erling, how many pupils are involved in bullying?
There are many, really. If we look at those who are very often involved in bullying, once a week or more often than that, we can roughly say that at least 5% of the pupils are victims of bullying, and roughly the same are bullies. There is also a little overlap. They can be both victims and bullies. So there are many.
So it's 5 to 10% involved in bullying, then you could say.
Yes, that should be about right. Up to 10%. It depends a little bit on what country you are in, but that is a main estimate.
Are there any differences in bullying according to gender? I mean, girls, are there more bullying amongst girls than boys, or the other way around?
Yes and no. There are about the same percentage of girls as boys who are victimized, but there are more boys who are bullies compared to girls.
Right. What about the big cities? I mean, cities versus the countryside. Or is it likely to be more bullying in big cities and at big schools?
Many think that there are much more bullying in big cities and big schools and big classes, but that is in fact not right. There are about the same level of bullying in big cities as in small places, small villages, in big schools compared to small schools, and even in big classes compared to small classes. It is not maybe easy to understand that, but that is the fact. Much research has revealed that.
Mm. What about age? When does bullying start? Is it more bullying amongst older children, or is it?
Yes, it can start early, even before school.
Mm-hmm.
There are more victims amongst the younger pupils than compared to the older ones, but there are more bullies among the older pupils compared to the younger ones.
I see. So, what exactly is bullying?
At least it is right to say that bullying is bad behavior. One or several pupils together do bad things against another pupil.
Lena? David?
It is repeated, very often repeated, over and over again. It can last for 1 year, 2 years, many years. And maybe the most important is to be conscious about the kind of helplessness for the victim. The victim is not really able to defend him or herself, so it is an imbalance of power, really, between the bullies and the victim.
Okay. And are there different types of bullying? Or
yes. Physical bullying, that is hitting, beating and so on. That is one form, and that is most common among boys, really. But the most common form in general, that is verbal bullying, saying bad words to another pupil, hurting comments and so on. And both girls and boys do that. And a third form is exclusion. You are excluded from a group, for example. Often invited to come and then excluded again. So that is three very common forms of face-to-face bullying. And of course we have electronic aggression also, the mobile phone, the internet, etc.
Is there a difference between how girls bully girls and compared to boys bullying boys?
One difference is that boys bully both boys and girls.
All right.
But girls very seldom bully boys. They often bully each other.
I see. I see. So let's talk about the victim of bullying. Who is the victim?
A victim can be anyone, really. That's important to say in the beginning. But there are some characteristics if you look at the big figures, so to say. First and foremost, I will say that the victims are very often vulnerable. That they are often more afraid. They give signs that they are afraid, anxious, and so on. And that is a risk factor for a pupil. Often they are lonely. That is also a risk factor. And handicapped pupils, slow learners, for example, that is also a risk factor. So there are some factors that can predict really being a victim.
So if you see someone being bullied, what can be what are the mechanisms? How can you detect bullying?
The mechanisms, we can simply say, why does this happen? There are some characteristics with the bullies that we are very, very certain about. They are more aggressive than the average, really much more aggressive also. And interesting there is that we have there are really two types of aggression. One type we call reactive aggression. That is to be aggressive because you are angry. And that is not very important with bullying. It's seldom that the bullies really are angry at the victim and do the bullying because of that. But the other form, we call that proactive aggression. That is the important form related to bullying. So to say, to go for it, to want to be aggressive, to hurt the victim without being angry.
All right. So you want to gain something.
Yes, you want to gain something,
Right.
and the key question is, of course, what is that?
Yeah.
And if we remember that the victims are often afraid, anxious, etc., that is exactly what the bullies want to see. They want to feel the power by seeing the victim being powerless, being afraid.
Right.
That is one very strong mechanisms related to bullying. But there is another one also related to proactive aggression, and that is if the pupils are doing this together, several bullies together, they will feel something like an in-group feeling within the group when they establish a pupil outside the group that they don't like, that are not with them, etc. That will increase the good in-group feeling within the group.
Right.
And the bullies, they are attracted to being in power, seeing the powerless attitude of the victim, and also to be within a group, excluding another pupil. So that is the main mechanisms.
Right. But for the you called it a reactive aggression, the other one?
Yes.
Was that that's not the same at all? That's just you don't want to gain anything from.
You are just angry, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. You are angry with another pupil and want to hit him or her. Something
So
like that.
a reactive aggressive person is not very likely to be a bully. It's more likely to be a victim. And
Yes.
a proactive aggressive is likely to be.
That is
a bully.
right. To be reactive can also be a risk for being a victim, really, because they can be angry but not dangerous, so to say. It can be fun to bully them.
Well, focusing on the bully, do they have, or do they experience bad conscience for what they are doing?
Yes, often.
They do.
Often. And but they have some tricks to take down that bad conscience, and the main trick is really to blame the victim. It is the victim that has done anything bad, and what we are doing is just to take back, and that is the main trick mechanism for taking down their bad conscience for what they are doing, really.
Right. So that they don't really feel responsibility either.
Yes, that's correct. They more and more imagine that they are right to. They can do it. It's right to do it because the victim is so bad, so different, and it more and more begins to be a habit also.
So the bullying is justified.
Yes, it's justified.
I see. What about the bystanders, the audience, the onlookers? What can they do?
Often there are bystanders, and research has shown very clearly that bystanders will seldom help the victim. They will be looking at it, the episode, and sometimes they will also really begin to be part of the bullying. So they are passive.
greiene du lagde var ikke fint engang. Du hadde gruppe.
Hvorfor skal du forbi?
But what if they take part? If they take the victim's part?
That is very effective. If 1 or 2 or 3 bystanders really helps the victim, that is often very effective, especially if those pupils have a good standing in the group, are popular and strong and so on. So that is important for teachers to know, and maybe they can talk also with such strong pupils to help if they should be seeing bullying.
Right.